Hi everybody, I'm Romerick and welcome to a review of the first 20 showcases. First off, let's talk about the little ship graphics I'm using. I've been looking for an excuse to use these for a while because I'm a big fan of the pixel art. These were created by Dragon, or one of the many contributors on the Pixel Citizen thread on the RSI forums. I think Dragon got a spotlight, maybe even MVP for these, which to be honest is completely deserved. I may have modified a few of these if I didn't think they were visually different enough. That's not a reflection on the pixel art that people did, just that I wanted them to stand out a little bit better. Don't go assuming that the scale is correct. I have more than likely altered them slightly to ensure they fit in. They were created to scale, I believe, but I did have to fiddle with them a little bit. Anyway, I hate 1 minute introductions, so let's get on with it. What to say about the Cutlass Black? It doesn't really work. I don't know what the actual problem is with it, but it seems to drift endlessly. And I thought the Glaive and some of the other ships were quite drifty ships, difficult to control. This one is meant to be incredibly agile. It's meant to be really controllable, a real pilot's craft. But when you actually get behind the controls, it's almost like being on ice. You set off one direction and it just kind of keeps going. Personally, I think it's broken. I'm not convinced that the weapon loadout is very good either. I think this needs to be tweaked. I'm a massive fan of Badgers, and it does have a big size 3. But at the same time, it's got sucker punches, and I don't really feel they work on this ship. The man turret as well, it rotates slowly, very, very limited vision on it. And because the ship is meant to be agile, even if they do fix it so that it's properly agile and easy to control, the poor bugger that's in this man turret isn't going to be able to hit anything unless he's got Jedi-like reflexes, because it's going to rotate so slowly that he's going to have to say to his pilot, please stop manoeuvring because I can't hit anything. So really, to sum up, I think it's broken and I think it needs a bit of love, and that's why it's stuck on 1 star. The Aurora MR is apparently an interdiction craft. Now that means it's meant to delay, disrupt or destroy enemy forces or supplies coming into the battle area. That is the definition as given by Wikipedia. I'm not convinced that the MR is capable of doing any of these properly. It has very weak armament, pretty iffy shield, and even the max shield is only a size 2. Its hull is average. It is a very good little multi-role ship for a starter, and it's incredible value for money. But ultimately, it can't do its core specified purpose well. That's why it gets a 2 star. As much as I love the Auroras, they are space coffins for a reason. And this one in particular, I just don't think the introduction is its calling in life. They should have just called this a starter vessel and left it at that. If they rename it classification, if they say this is now a starter vessel and nothing else, then yeah, it would probably get 3, maybe even 4 stars because it would fit that role. But right now, it's an interdiction vessel. Nope. The short-range patrol fighter, the Gladius. This is pretty good fun to fly. It's very easy to fly, it's quick, it's nimble, but it has a pretty weak shield, and even the maximum shield size of 2 is the same as most Auroras, which is pretty feeble. The hull is fine, everything else about the ship itself is fine. The weapon stock loadout is pretty weak though. The 2 Bulldogs are fine, both size 2s, but the size 1 Scorpion gimbaled weapon seems pretty weak. Limited ammo, not the most accurate weapon in the world either. I feel that maybe needs a little boost. Other than that, I've no real complaints about the Gladius. As I said, it's an enjoyable ship to fly. I just feel that it's weak in a couple of areas. For $90, that's quite a hefty pledge for what is a very average ship. Now, the Hornet Ghost is an infiltration craft, and as such, I don't believe many of the mechanics to do with infiltration are in-game. Sheer steel armour plating, for example, I don't believe that's in-game. So I'll probably revise this later on, and it's more than likely going to be 4, 5, 6 stars, you never know. I don't have a limit on the number of stars. I think this will be one of the best ships. But as it stands right now, it's got a bit of a strange loadout. Size 4 Badgers, which are very, very good, but are they an infiltration craft weapon? I suppose so, but again, something that would be a little bit more precise, I feel would be better suited. I just feel like they've just left those on. The missiles, oh god, the missiles, marksman. I don't think I've ever managed to hit anything with them. Now that might just be this patch that I reviewed this ship in. The marksman missiles were bugged. Maybe I'm really shit at aiming with them. Who knows? But I didn't manage to hit anything at all. And I flew this for a good 3-4 hours. And I'm not a massive missile user, but any time I did use them, I remember them just floating into space. The hull, like all the Hornets, and the agility, is really, really good. It's a little bit slow though. I expected it for an infiltration craft to maybe be a little bit faster than the stock Hornet. That again might be tweaked later on. So right now it's sitting on 3 stars. I expect that to go up by at least 1 once the mechanics come into the game. I do think this is going to be one of the more fun ships to fly. Even if it's not massively versatile, it's still able to do other combat roles. It's just a shame that they've got an infiltration craft here that doesn't have any cargo space. I feel that they've maybe lost something there. They could have put a tiny little cargo hold on to allow you to go in, infiltrate, maybe grab something and get out. I think that would have been a nice little mechanic. The Hornet tracker is a bit of an odd beast. It's a scout stroke command and control vessel classification. The command and control section just isn't in game yet, so we can't rate that, and that's why I think I'll be coming back to this ship later to revise this review and the rating of it. But right now it's stuck with 2 size 4 badgers on the gimbals, and I'm going to be honest, I just don't think that's enough. So you're going to be scouting, but because you've got such hit and miss weaponry, you're going to need an escort, or you're going to need a lot of luck, because you can't outrun anything, because anything that you come up against will more than likely be faster than you and better armed. And although you've got very good armament and very good shield, that's not going to stop your 2 gimbal weapons being shot off, because as anybody who's flown a Hornet knows, those wings tend not to last too long in fight. So right now it's a 3 star. I suspect it'll be higher once the command and control functions are in game, and it could well be a surprise hit with me, I don't know. But right now I just feel it doesn't fit its intended role. It's too damn slow. 2 gimbaled weapons on wings which tend to get blown off doesn't really make any sense to me. Well, I'll come back and look at it later. It's a real shame that I have to say that I would rather have a stock Hornet over this any day of the week. The Mustang Alpha is a very good starter ship, and the only 2 things it really falls down on are the shield and the weapons. They're a little bit weak, but when you compare it to the likes of the Auroras, it's a very good ship. It's very quick, it's very easy to control, it's very nimble, and for the price tag, it's phenomenal value for money. This is a ship which, to be honest, was probably right on the verge of getting a 4 star. I have very few complaints about it. I wouldn't ask for it to be boosted. The only thing I think it's maybe missing is a handful of missiles. But all in all, it's a very good ship, and it's incredible value for money. Just remember that as a starter ship, it's not meant to go head to head with the likes of the Hornet. The Scythe has a pretty impressive stock loadout. However, it's extremely weak shield and its very drifty flight mechanics. It's barely scraped a 3 star from me. I know there will be many Scythe owners out there who are enraged by this sort of rating, but there will also be those owners out there who think, yeah, I'm surprised they got a 3 star as well. One of the biggest problems for this ship, at least from my perspective, is it's meant to be a medium fighter, but it doesn't feel like one. It feels like a light fighter, a quick yet weak fighter. Because if you come up against anything with reasonable armament, you're going to have to dodge or you're dead. Because that shield won't last long, and then they're going to be picking off your weapons one at a time. Versatility wise, I'm just not sure what you do with this ship. Maybe as an escort fighter, but other than that, there really isn't much it can do, and that's why it's stuck on 3 stars. But let's hope that in a future patch, maybe its mechanic gets improved, maybe its shield gets a little boost. I'm not asking for it to be a defensive powerhouse, but what I expect it to be able to do is just last that little bit longer. Maybe one of the explanations for it being so weak, at least on the shield, is that because it's one of the ships in Vandal Swarm, they don't want it to be too big a challenge. But let's just wait and see what happens. The P52 Marilyn was literally just a ball hair off getting a 4 star rating. It's extremely agile, it's very quick, and it's incredibly easy to control. But its versatility is pretty much zero. It's a snub fighter, and that's all it's ever going to be. With a very weak hull and a very weak shield. I actually felt that if they had made the hull just that little bit stronger, it would have been a 4, maybe even a 5 star. It does its job very well, but it's lacking missiles. And yes, you could argue that maybe it doesn't need missiles as a snub fighter, blah blah blah. But I just felt that on a snub fighter, having even 1 or 2 missiles would be a massive improvement, even though personally I never seem to hit anything with a missile. But overall, this is an exceptional little ship. It's incredible value for money. It's just a shame that it literally will only ever be a snub fighter, although it could be fun to take it to the races. The 300i is a touring ship. By that, hopefully it means I don't need to hitch a caravan to the back. And I'm assuming that that means a more general purpose ship, almost a multi-role ship, one which is literally just about travelling the verse. As such, it's a very quick ship, it's very agile, and it's very easy to control. But other than that, it's more or less average, at least in everything except cargo space. I mean, 4 cargo? What you might do with 4 cargo? We'll have to wait and see. It's very good value for money though. What I would say about this ship is I feel that it's almost like a baseline for ships. This one is pretty much average in almost every aspect, but as a package, it's actually very, very good. I have to watch what I say because I have some friends out there who are complete fanboys of the 300 series. To sum up, what I would say is this is a ship that, see if you don't know what you want, this is a very good ship to buy because you can do just about everything. The 350R is the fastest straight line ship in the game currently, but its Achilles heel is that it's not the easiest ship to control and it's not as agile as the other racers, so your average lap time will be higher. Now that doesn't really matter if you just try to go from A to B as quickly as possible, but if you're trying to do 3-4 laps and beat other racers, you're going to find cheaper pledge ships passing you and streaking off into the distance because they're so much easier to control, they're so much more agile, and that straight line speed's just not going to help you. So unless we have drag racing in game, this one's really not going to be the best racer, despite its extremely high asking price. And bear in mind, this has 0 cargo capacity currently. So let's hope that the redesign and the remodelling of the 300 series maybe changes that in the future. I am more than happy to come back and re-review it in a later patch. The Avenger Stalker represents fantastic value for money. Now, I can't really rate the bounty hunting aspect of the ship because that's clearly not in game yet, but as an interceptor, I think this is a very, very capable ship. It's extremely easy to control, it's very fast, and it's very agile. It comes with a pretty respectable stock loadout and is one of the most versatile ships, at least single-person ships that we've got so far in game. Allegedly, it's a competitor against the 300 series, and when you compare it with a 300i, this is the clear victor in my opinion. It's certainly one of the best, most rounded ships in game currently. That's why it gets a 4-star. It's a ship that when you come up against them, you know that you're going to be in trouble. The Vanguard Warden was only really let down by a relatively weak shield. That may have been just the patch that I reviewed it under, but it was nowhere near as strong as even one of the 300 series. It was a surprisingly agile ship. Again, I expect this to be changed, but it was also quite slow. And as I reviewed it under its initial release patch, I suspect the ship, as it is, will be tweaked and changed over the coming months. But as it stands, it's got an incredibly good stock loadout. It's a very versatile ship, although I'm quite surprised it's not got any cargo capacity. But even without that, it can fit in with just about any combat role that you can think of. And because of that, it's got a 4-star rating. An extremely capable ship. The Super Hornet is a fairly versatile craft, but it's obviously focused on the combat roles, with possibly a sideline in command and control, but we need to wait and see how that will actually work in game. It has an exceptionally good stock loadout, one of the best. Very good hull, very good shield, but it's distinctly average when it comes to agility and speed. And I think it's a bit of a shame that it has no cargo capacity. But then again, that's completely forgivable. It is an ex-military craft after all. To be perfectly honest, it's probably just off a 5-star rating, and it's certainly one of the best ships in game right now. As a space superiority craft, it really is quite fantastic, but I have concerns over its viability as an escort craft, whether it's got the range of some of the other vessels, because clearly you're carrying a lot more weight, you're carrying a second person, you're carrying a quite ludicrous amount of armament. Will it be able to keep up with the vessels it's actually escorting? I suspect it will, and if it can, and if it's tweaked at a later stage, then I'm more than happy to come back and give it a 5 or a 6-star rating. The F7C Hornet has the same rating from me as the Super Hornet, and that may surprise some people, but I can explain that simply. This has cargo capacity, and despite not having the gimbaled weapon of the Super Hornet, it has just about everything else still there, and it's also cheaper. So whilst it doesn't have the stopping power of the Super Hornet, and it's not a space superiority craft, as a civilian close support vessel, it's exceptionally good, and in its role it will do extremely well. If you're looking for a bruiser, you're looking for a ship that can do more or less everything and still fend for itself, you really can't go wrong with the F7C. The Mustang Gamma is probably the only racer that I very nearly gave a 5-star rating to. Now this one's got a 4-star, but it's so close to being 5, it's unreal. This is a racing ship which has cargo capacity, which makes very little sense to me, but it makes it more versatile, so it's an incredibly good ship. The Gamma has an admittedly very poor shield, but the hull strength, that's pretty average. It's extremely fast, extremely agile, very, very easy to control. And to all intents and purposes, it's an M50 with more countermeasures, a better power plant, a better shield, and cargo capacity for half the price, which really makes very little sense. But ultimately, just go and buy it, because if you want a racer, this is the one for you. The Mustang Omega is essentially a reskinned Mustang Gamma, but it's a bit rarer because it was given away as part of a package with the AMD cards. Now, I'm convinced that the hull strength wasn't quite as strong as the Mustang Gamma. I may be wrong, but everything else about the ship is the same. As such, it's set with a 4-star rating. But what I would say is that the Omega in its description is a bit of a special ship. And as such, there's a chance that CIG may make it slightly different from the Gamma in the future patches. As such, it could well maybe just sneak a 5-star rating later on. But right now, if you don't have one, you're very unlikely to find one. I wouldn't get too hung up on it though, because it is, for now anyway, a carbon copy of the Mustang Gamma. Still a brilliant little ship, and still better than an M50. Sorry, M50 owners. The Glaive is a medium fighter. Now, compared to the Scythe, which is allegedly a medium fighter too, this is vastly better. However, it still flies really poorly. It's very difficult to control compared to the 300 series, the Avenger, or the Hornet. Really, compared to just about any other ship other than the Cutlass, which is broken. This is very, very difficult to control. But it's rewarding once you put a little bit of time in. I'm still hoping it gets improved later though. The biggest unknown about this ship is how versatile it will be. It has no cargo capacity. We don't know if it can be used for escort. You would think it could be, but you don't know how effective it'll be. It's still a very strong fighter. It's got incredibly potent weaponry, although you do have to be accurate with them because they do overheat almost instantly. But it's reasonably quick, very agile, just so hard to control. If you're a skillful pilot, you'll get something out of this. Don't expect to jump in it and annihilate everything, because it's got a mind of its own. It really is just such a pain in the arse to control. But for some reason, I still enjoy flying it. The 325A is an interdiction craft. Now, I've got to put my hand up and admit that in the review, I actually called it an interception craft. It's not, it's an interdiction one. And I knew that when I was rating it, but for some reason when I typed it up, I put it in wrong. What that means is this is essentially the 300 series version of the Aurora MR. Honestly, there's nothing to compare. The 325A blows the MR out the water. It would if it was in water. It's exceptionally fast, very easy to control, very agile. This is a real pilot's craft. Especially if you fly with a HOTAS, this ship is made for you. It's extremely good fun to fly. Now, it does allegedly have a custom targeting computer, but as anybody who knows me understands, I have very bad luck with missiles. So I never really benefited from that. And maybe later on it will be better, at least for me. Maybe I actually will hit something with a missile for once. It is an exceptionally good vessel. And for the £70 asking pledge, it is quite phenomenal value for money. I could bitch about the weapon loadout, but I won't. They do at least fit in with its role of interdiction. If this ship gets in your way, it's going to disrupt you. It's going to be able to take on most ships. With a decent pilot at the controls, this is a very, very dangerous ship to be up against. The M50 lacks the straight line speed of the 350R, but it's still an incredibly good racer. It's very easy to control, it's got very, very good agility, and it's a tiny little ship. But then you have to look at the other classification it has, which is an interceptor. And as an interceptor, it's not going to be that great. You can get out an intercept craft, but then it's going to get blown up, because it's only got 16 countermeasures in total, which is the lowest number of any ship currently in game. The Stump Fighter, the P52, and the basic Aurora MR outgun this ship in terms of stock loadout. So yeah, you can go and intercept stuff if you want, but you better hope that it's not a P52 Marilyn or a basic Aurora, because unless you're a very good pilot, you're going to die. And yes, the M50 is a pain in the arse to shoot, but ultimately, you're outgunned by just about everything else in the verse, at least at stock levels. You don't have the hard points to throw too much else on. So yes, it's a good ship, and I do like it, but I can't help but think the Mustang Gamma is better value for money, and ultimately a better racing ship. The Aurora LN is a militia patrol craft, and it gets its 4-star rating easily enough. It comes with 2 size 2 Bulldogs on the gimbal, and 4 size 2 missiles, which no doubt I won't hit anything with, as well as a respectable 13 cargo capacity. All for $35. That is pretty incredible value for money. But add into that the fact that you've got 2 size 2 unused fixed wing hardpoints as well, and suddenly this ship just blows you away. The bottom line is, it's still a space coffin, but it's one that can punch well above its weight. And whilst it's not quick, it's not massively agile, it's still very easy to control, and it's an incredibly versatile ship. And in my books, it's certainly one of the best ships in game right now. Thank you for watching this little video. I will be updating every 5 or 10 showcases that I produce. That includes any revised ratings that I put out, and hopefully if the community continue to produce these little pixel ships, I will continue to use them in the future. Anyway, thank you. Goodbye.